Yep. Incremental routines. So let's cover a part of prioritization in incremental routing. Prioritization is difficult before it becomes easy. Is such an obvious statement. But that means that first it's difficult, but eventually it will not be as hard. It's hard to acquire the skill, but once you have this skill, it becomes second nature, we could say. It becomes easy. So let's see very high level this transition, or this path. So we have the prioritization puzzle. You have to begin idea. Prioritization is a skill, a soft skill. It's difficult first, but then becomes easier with practice. So even if you have a lot of knowledge, even if with this course I provide you a lot of knowledge that is more tacit, is more hard to acquire or to transmit, you still need your own practice. You cannot master priorities without ever practicing prioritization. But that's the good news. Struggling with priorities often indicates a strong hunger for knowledge and creativity. Because if you don't, that means you don't have much of an overflow. It's doable. You can finish your standing queue. Therefore, you can keep neglecting priorities. Right? Which have other consequences beyond that, by the way. Not the point of this video. Then, the goal is to win the battle against the information overload by learning to prioritize honestly and effectively. Effectively is one dimension that we will see in this course, and honestly, this is the hardest. Priority bias will prevent you for that. So then we have seen the priority scale once goes to 0 to 100, okay? 0 the most priority critical and so on, and 100 whatever can wait, the least important. But your task is to develop a sense where each piece of information belongs on this spectrum. If you think everything is top priority, you're just at the beginning of your journey. One quick analogy. You have a textbook, a physical paper textbook, right? And the teacher asks you, hey, highlight what you think is more important in the text. And you will highlight almost the entire stuff. Too much highlighting. You're at the beginning of this journey. Okay. So there's a mental workout to get there incrementally. The first one is the forget one test. You're trying to decide between two items, or elements, not necessarily items, right? So you can ask this question to yourself. If I had to permanently delete one of these, which would that be? It's like the dilemma that, hey, you have two people in a train and you have to save one, but the other will die. More or less it's the same scenario. So which one you will delete? You're actually answering the question, what item is more important than the other? What item has higher priority than the other? Why this works? Because this exercise forces you to compare real-world value and application of each item, revealing which one is really more important to you. And this is time-bound. Today, perhaps, will be item A, and tomorrow could be item B, because I have changed my priorities. Hey, I can no longer apply this to my job because I have changed my job, right? As an example. Then, second mental workout. How low can you go? Challenge your own sense of urgency with this exercise. Take an item and try to have it your lowest priority you can stomach. Obviously, this won't work at the very beginning if your collection is just 100 elements. But you'll reach a point that you have information overflow, you cannot process your outstanding queue, then is when you can start doing those exercises. Can you go to 10%, 20, 66, 99? You will have a realization. You will quickly see that you can live without immediate access to a large portion of your knowledge. This helps break the everything is urgent mindset. For instance, I noticed as a backup, I have for 8,563 items outstanding. In my new collection is not much lower than that, because I focus on this course, sacrificing my own usage of Supermemo. But hey, I can live without immediate access to the knowledge. Large portion of my knowledge is still waiting. Can I do 66? Let me show you something. These are the standing. This is the standing queue. I have only the items now. 8,369, and I sort by priority. Now once again, it was already there. Do you see? I have 85, 70s, 60s. I'm not going to see that. In order to see those items, I will have to do like 8,000 item repetitions, more than what is becoming outstanding every single day, and the items I keep creating. On top of that, I have to do 8,000 more to catch up, assuming I don't lapse, I don't forget. That means that it will take a large proportion of your knowledge that we won't be immediate. You need to break this mindset. Accept the delay. Okay. Then, using the system stats to your advantage. Supermemo has a priority protection statistic. We will focus later on in this section. That shows how items are safe. So the strategy. By assigning a lower priority, a higher percentage, you can push items beyond the protected zone. Meaning that, hey, if I do the daily repetitions, I will see up to 5% of my priority queue. And everything else will be waiting. But if it's a lower priority, remember the number is higher, like 20%. In my collection, I'm not going to see this. I will need to freeze my collection for months and months until I get there. So what's the benefit? If you have created too many similar questions, consolations from the same parent, the same source, that are crowding your review sessions, you can send most of them out of view and focus only on one or two that capture the essence of that topic. That's usually is what I do. Usually it's the definition or to have the name, and the most important thing, more or less, is the reason I imported that. And I do sometimes right away without the incrementalism to guarantee I have those, and the rest waiting. So how to nudge your Supermemo priorities? You know that the algorithm is not perfect, but it's smart. But it can give you hits, very implicitly. So you can adjust influence of an item priority by adjusting its interval. Something we'll see much later is that we can reschedule elements or change in a way, in a different way we're going to express it, that we can modify the interval. But modifying the interval, consequently, will modify the priority. Yes, in this section we're not going to see that, because we need to introduce the rescheduling and so on. So we'll understand the priorities, how they work. You can set priorities explicitly, as we have seen already, or doing something else that as a side effect will also change the priority directly. And something else, or indirectly, like when I reprioritize that element, other elements in the range shift one position, right? And there are a ton more. So for example, the system suggests 30-day interval, but you feel the item is more critical. You can shorten it to 11 days, but this will also modify the priority. So the result, you're telling Supermemo, this cannot wait that long. This signals item's priority. Then, if you see this happening, it's that implicit cue. This implicit hint that, hey, if you think the interval is too long for the priority you're getting, perhaps you want a higher priority. Then what's the takeaway? Prioritization is a marathon, not a sprint. It's one of the features, one of the skills you will master the latest. It will take the longest to master. It doesn't happen overnight. It requires conscious, deliberate effort and practice over and over and over and over. And the effects are not immediate. So sometimes you will need some years just to see the effect you have done on the first months. So you did it, whatever, but you're not going to see the result until much later. Then, by consistently applying these mental exercises and strategies, remember the forget one test, let one die, and how long you can go, how low you can set priorities to items, you will develop an intuitive sense of knowledge value, turning information overload into structured and manageable learning process. Easy to say, hard to do. This is more or less everything about Prioritization being difficult before it gets easier. See you incrementally.